May 5th, 2020. Just a couple ground rules before we get started. During this teleconference, Board of Supervisors meeting, public comment will be handled as follows. Well, first, participants are asked to call in at 6:55. That's passed. Participants will be asked to identify themselves when being accepted into the meeting. At this point, we had just had Mrs. Ruble on the line. The public will be muted during the meeting when the board is talking. This agenda item that requires a board vote, the public will be unmuted and given an opportunity to comment and ask questions. Participants wishing to comment must state their name and must speak one at a time. Comments or questions can also be submitted via email to info@eastgoshen.org. Again, info@eastgoshen.org. Participants are asked to turn down the volume if they are live streaming the meeting on YouTube. That live stream is about 15 seconds delayed from the real-time Zoom meeting, so it creates interference. That's it, Mr. Chairman. Marty Shane.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. This is Marty. Welcome to the May 5th meeting of the Board of Supervisors. I would appreciate if everybody would join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States of America, to the republic
which stands
one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. David.
I'll ask everyone to observe a moment of silence for those who go in harm's way every day to protect us, the police, our emergency medical people, our people who serve in the military, and during the COVID-19, certainly our healthcare workers. Thank you.
I just need to announce one thing, and I think John touched on it there. We are being live streamed on YouTube, and I think he also touched on the idea that the public hearing is at the back end of the meeting, and we ask anybody that's in our guests that they refrain from commenting during the meeting and hold it to the public comment period, with the one exception, and that be when we have to take a vote. You always have an opportunity to weigh in before the vote is taken. The next item is number 6 for those that have the agenda.
Marty,
Yes.
Two things I'd like to report. First, we sent out an email blast, but Sunoco is going to resume operations. They're going to start next Thursday at the Beautree site, start mobilizing equipment. Next Saturday at the Quaker site, and the following Wednesday, the 20th, at the New Kent site. And probably more important, we've spoken to the hauler, and we're going to resume leaf collection next Wednesday, which will be the 13th. And then we'll pick up, and then again, they have another one on the 20th. And once we get back to the 20th, we'll then be back to our regular every 2-week collection. So yard waste will recommence on the 13th, and then there'll be another one on the 20th, and then after that, it'll be every 2 weeks. So,
any news on bulk trash, Rick?
We're working on bulk trash.
Okay, thank you.
With the as far as the chairman's report is concerned, we have received the police arbitration award. We are in the process of figuring out what that's worth, and we will report that out at one of our upcoming meetings, and so that everybody understands exactly what the arbitration award represents in terms of dollars and cents. The emergency service reports tonight, there is only one, and I'm not sure who does that. There's an emergency management report. Ricky, do you do that?
No, that came from Kevin Miller, the emergency management coordinator. It just basically says we're okay as of the 27th of the month. Just what he has done since.
Okay, regarding the next item, which is number 8, for those following us, the financial report this month, there is not any, and we move down to the approval of the minutes and the treasurer's report. I have reviewed a couple of times the minutes, and I find them to be okay. For those that want to make a motion, David?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the minutes from the Tuesday, April 21st, 2020 Board of Supervisors meeting.
I would also, I
Second?
would second that. Yep, there you go.
Is there any comments from the supervisors? Is
No
there any
comment.
comments from the guests? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor of the motion? Aye.
Aye.
Is that unanimous?
Yeah,
Well, any nay
Okay,
votes?
thank
I
you.
think that's the best way to say it. Any nay votes?
Okay, is there any nays? I don't hear any. Okay, the treasurer's report. David, you want to make a motion on that?
Yeah, John, do you have any comments, or should I make a motion first? You want to?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the only sort of weird one on here is that we had to reissue the check for the building roof. We sent it to Pannoni instead of the first one, sent it to Pannoni instead of to the contractor. So that money's coming back. We have to send a new check. So that's the only funny thing.
Okay. So, Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the treasurer's report and accept the receipts and approve the expenditures as presented in the expenditure register and as summarized in the treasurer's report.
I'll
Is there
second
a
that.
second?
Yes, I'll
Is
second.
there any comments from the board members? Any
no,
comments from the guests? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Did somebody have a comment?
No, Marty, I
Okay,
think you're
all
good.
those in favor of the motion? Aye.
aye,
Is there any nays? Seeing none, is unanimous. The next item is the redistricting, adopting the redistricting, or at least thinking about it. Carol Rubley is with us this evening. Susan, you got Carol? Carol?
She's
live
unmuted,
now?
yes. Yes, she is.
Does Carol want to make any comments before there's discussion by the board?
I just want to thank you very much for considering the resolution, and the support has been growing across the state. There have been really 381 governing bodies, including 23 county commissioners, have supported the resolution, and this represents over 9 million Pennsylvanians, or 70% of the estimated population. The Fair Districts is still working. We had a conference call today, hoping we can get the House and Senate leaderships to pass the bills out for a public hearing. So we're optimistic we might get this done and have a hearing on the bills before the summer research. So we're working hard and hope we can get your support.
Okay, dokie. Is there any comments from the board members relative to Carol's comments, or any comments that they would like to make before we take a motion? David, you want to take a motion?
Yeah, I'm gonna move that we vote in support of. Or you know what? How about if I do this motion, we can have a discussion about it. I'd like to make a motion that we refer the request for supporting a resolution to staff to draft a resolution, because we don't really have a resolution in front of us. We have a draft given to us by somebody else, right?
We had the sample resolution that was prepared by the Mrs. Ruby's group.
Yeah.
Right.
Has it been reviewed, and is
I
that
think
the one that we're?
Well, we can do a draft resolution if we need to, but I think in order to make a resolution, we're gonna have to take a position on this in one way or the other, and then
Or
make
do we
a
want to vote
resolution
on?
if we want
Do we
to.
want to vote on this draft resolution, or do we want to have our own prepared?
I think
Vote on the
we're voting
draft
I think we're voting
resolution.
on the issue itself. We're voting on the issue itself.
No, we're voting
No.
to send a resolution in support of redistrict.
Well, I think your motion ought to be in support of, and then we'll take it, and then we'll get a second, and then whoever wants to make comments, that's
Okay.
fine, and ultimately we'll take a vote.
So I'll make a motion that we support the resolution in support of Citizens Commission for legislative and congressional redistricting.
Is there a second? Is there a motion to not accept is there a motion to deny? I mean, if we didn't get it, I didn't hear a second. Anybody didn't make it, did they?
No.
Somebody's
So
got
if
to
there's
put
no
a,
second,
somebody's got to
then
put
there has
another
to be
kind of
another
motion on the
motion.
floor.
Remember that
All right.
seconding the motion doesn't mean you're necessarily voting for it.
Just to talk about it.
I'll second the
Well, seeing
motion.
none, somebody's got to,
I'll second the motion to discuss it.
okay, that's fine. Thank you very much, Michelle. Does anybody want to make a comment relative to Carol's comment? Carol's comments? Does anybody want to make a comment relative to about the motion itself?
Yes, I would like to make a comment. I'd say, thank you very much for bringing this to us, Representative. I am not in favor of this particular resolution as it is written. There's not a specific bill that it actually endorses. Some of the legislation that is mentioned in here is constitutional and sound, and some of it is not. And I will not put my name to that.
Okay.
I feel
Is
that
there
it's a
any more
rather
comments?
divisive issue.
And I'll just
Okay.
mention that I'm in support of a supportive resolution because Pennsylvania continues to be one of the major embarrassments in the country for how redistricting has been abused in our state, and particularly in the northeastern or the southeastern part of our state, of which we are part of.
Is John or Mike want to make a comment?
Well, I'll simply say that we have our legislators in place in Harrisburg. They all recognize that the districts need to be brought back into harmony with what the original intentions were. I don't think they need my support. They know what the right thing is to do. If there's optimism that it's going to move out of committee and to the floor, that's terrific. And I'd like to wait and see how they do their job. I expect them to do their job and adopt these bills to further the redistricting through their legislative actions, not through resolutions that are not necessarily binding or anything else. So I support redistricting, but I'm not going to support this resolution per se.
Okay. Is
I
John
agree,
Herzog there?
Marty, with, I agree with Michelle and Mike. This is outside of our purview, outside of our jurisdiction.
Okay. Hey, Mike, I think the comment you made is the legislators are already in a position to make a decision. Is that correct?
Yes.
Well,
Or not
that's
to
right.
make a decision to form a redistricting that's valid. That's what your argument is, I guess. Well, what's the difference between now and when they have done it other times? And I'm not trying to put you in a hot seat. I'm just asking a question because I'm searching for a position, to tell you the truth. But I'm just curious as to, if we leave it in the hands of the legislators, why are we going to get something different than we already got?
Well, I can't speak to
Why are they?
I can't speak to the legislative history, Marty.
I can.
Well, I mean, whoever was the majority was always going to come out best in the redistricting, which means, I guess, it would be who would follow in this election, whatever would happen. So, as far as I'm concerned, it just seems to me that if we have no reason to believe you're going to get something different than we have in the past. Michelle, did you want to say something?
I was just going to say, the way it's currently set up, it's already been court mandated. The gerrymandering was overridden by the court, and the court mandated the districts for the congressional seats, and the rank and file legislators don't have anything to do with how the redistricting process is done. It's done by the leadership of all four chambers. The Republican and Democratic members have a representative from each the House and the Senate. And since they can never come to a common decision who that fifth person must be, the governor gets to appoint the fifth person. And so it's generally in a Democratic, this past cycle, it's been in a Democratic majority because of that. And it doesn't matter if we want to do this resolution or not. The process is in place and it can work if we allow the legislators to do their job. I believe that the redistricting should be done and it should be done correctly. And in order to do that, you have to take all of the legislators out of the mix and put it into a computer. You have to allow a computer to make the decision where the lines are drawn.
I appreciate your comments. I myself must say that the details of what's required is I do not know that, and Michelle, I assume you're correct. I have no idea. I can't challenge you one way or the other, and I wouldn't do it anyway. I don't know. I thought I read that the two leaders from the House and the two leaders from the Senate were it was two from each side did this, and I thought it said that the Supreme Court appointed the tiebreaker, so to speak, and I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what I thought. The other concern that I have is, and I know that in the material that we got from Ricky, that there's going to be 4 from the Republicans, 4 from the Democrats, or the largest and the next largest, I guess it is, that the words that they use. And the independents, which would be the third, would have 3. Now, it seems to me, and I don't know if I'm right about this, how do you ensure, or how do they ensure, and this is a question for anybody to answer, I don't know the answer to this, how do you ensure that the 3 people that are not going to be of either party, they're going to be the independents, so to speak, are going to be fair and balanced? Because usually, or at least the independents that I've run into over the course of all the years that I've been doing this, have had a position, they either one way or the other, for some reason they just wanted to be independent. So how do you guarantee that, or how is this going to be guaranteed that you're going to get 3 independents that are truly independent? So if it comes to, which I think it would in most cases, down to where they would make the decision, how do you ensure that they're going to be fair and balanced? Or how does the legislation that's put on the table ensure that they're going to be fair and balanced? How would they know?
My guess is that Carol could address our questions if we want to open it up to public comment.
That's fine. That's fine if Carol wants to answer a question. I have no idea. It's just one of those things that bothers me, though, I must tell you.
There is a complex process where people who are not actually involved in politics, they're more apolitical, submit their names, and then there's oversight commissions who go through, the Secretary of State goes through and sorts the names out to make sure they're valid, and they whittle it down until they have the given number of people. But there's a lot of checks and balances in this process. And, I do want to point out, this isn't a partisan issue because grievous incidences have occurred on both sides of the aisle. And Maryland had a very gerrymandered districting in the last go around by the Democrats. So it's going to happen on either side because there's so much clout with the party in control. And it's not the governor who makes that decision, it's the Supreme Court that appoints the tiebreaker. So there are, you have to look through it and see based on other states that have implemented it, the controls that are there. Is it ever going to be 100%? No, it's not. But it will certainly be better than the kind of districts that we have seen, which are violating our Constitution as it is written right now, that we keep our municipalities as compact, contiguous districts. There's always going to be some exceptions because of the numbers, but nothing to the extent that our Constitution has been violated in past years. And just one other thing, all of the Chester County legislators have signed on to this initiative, both Democrats and Republicans.
Carol, Ricky provided to each one of us four shots at this thing. Two were from the House and two were from the Senate. They did have a little bit of differences in them. Is in effect what's being voted on one of those four that would turn out of this process, or would it be something entirely different that if in fact they went on a different kind of they went a different way about doing this? You know, is it limited to these four that we have, or is it could be anything?
Can somebody unmute Carol?
I'm sorry.
There will be, as the process moves forward with the hearings and the give and take, there'll be changes made. But it's the concept that we're looking at, which would be a citizens commission, which many other states have done, to oversee our legislative and congressional redistricting. So you're not voting on the nitty gritty because that's going to change. But it's the concept, and it's only a resolution.
Yeah, I mean, if the resolution is to make sure that to determine what your position is, whether regarding gerrymandering, it's an easy decision for me because there should not be any gerrymandering as far as I'm concerned. It ought to be legitimately done so that both people have an equal opportunity. But I don't know enough about this. I don't know if, well, I know we can take no position on something. I'm afraid I'm going to have to take no position on this because I just don't feel comfortable taking one position or the other. I just don't know enough about it. And I've tried to make myself educated to know what it is. And if I was going to vote on it based on what I know, which is not a heck of a lot, I must tell you, then I would vote yes. But I don't think I want to do that because I don't feel comfortable enough to do it. So I'm going to take no position on that. Okay. Does anybody else have any comments from the board? Because, Carol, are you still the only one in the audience?
I guess
Yes.
so. I don't see this visually.
No, I'm asking,
Yes,
well, yeah, I'm
yes,
asking
yes,
you, but I
she
really
is.
should be asking Susan.
Yes, she is, Marty,
Carol,
but
do you have
you just might want to give a little bit of time for the lag time for YouTube. I have not received any email messages, but in case if we have.
Okay.
email
Carol,
from
you've
the
heard
public.
most of fact comments from everybody on the board, and it looks at the very minimum you're 3-2 against the motion. So, before we take a vote, is there anything you want to say in addition to what you already said?
Not really. You know, I have the copy of the resolution before me, and I think you have all seen that. And, you know, we're looking at the concept of an independent commission, a new way of creating these districts to be fairer, especially to municipalities. If you look around the state of Pennsylvania, it's the municipalities, and I saw this personally, that have been so chopped up, and they lose their clout because their residents there are in so many different districts with different people representing them, and it's very hard to communicate. And a number of other states have done this, and many others are still looking at it and moving towards it too. So, you know, I'd hope you would just look at it from a unbiased position and, you know, see if this wouldn't be a better way. And it's not the end all be all, because after the hearings are held, changes will be made, and you would then have an opportunity to come out and speak in favor of one way or another, whether you still support what's being proposed and voted on.
Carol, I think about a couple of weeks ago, each one of us got a letter from Terzai regarding what he has done in the past, and he didn't actually come out and say what he wanted us to do or anybody to do, but it's kind of read into it, what he wants, just to leave things alone. Do you know much about that? Do you know what the true reason of writing that was?
I can't read his mind. I know Mike well, but you know, the party in control loves this because it gives them control over determining who their future representatives will be. So that's already given if you look at what's happened in the past. This would open it up to an unbiased point of view. And if you look at the number of groups across the state of Pennsylvania, these are nonpartisan good government groups who have been working very hard to get support for this because they truly believe there is a better way to do this that's fair to the people in this Commonwealth.
Okay, does anybody want to follow up from Carol's comments? If not, I think it's time to
yeah,
David, did you want to say something? Does
No,
anybody want to say anything?
I was just looking at the be it resolved, and basically the resolution is asking the board to hereby support legislative efforts to amend the Constitution to assign the task force. And then the second is to calling upon elected officials basically to work toward passage and you know, make a public announcement of their position. So, you know, it's a resolution of encouragement, and that's why I don't have trouble voting for it.
Susan, was there a
Okay.
comment?
There is not. No, I was just wanted to say there are no comments. No.
Is there anybody else? I'm with David. I think I didn't read it that way, but now that I heard what David said, I think it is basically not. It's really saying we need a change, and this is supporting change. And I think that this is a good idea in terms of that. I don't think it's. I'm not going to ask everybody else to change their position. I'm going to go from no position to David's position of yes. So with that said, I will ask for a motion which is
Just need a vote.
plus side of this thing, and I assume that's David and I, and the
We
negative
just need-
side is the
we
other
just need
three.
a
Is that
vote.
correct?
You just need a vote, Marty.
Yeah. Okay, let's vote. All those in favor of the motion, aye. Aye. Is there nays?
Nay.
Hey,
I have no
nays?
position. I am abstaining. I have no position.
So it's 2 and 2. It's 2, 2 and 1. Mike, I'm afraid you're going to have to take a position. I don't think we can, John, I don't think we can end up with, or Ricky, I don't think we can end up with 2, 2. The
If
person
it's
that's making
2-2, it
2-2
doesn't
is gonna-
pass.
Pardon me?
It's 2-2, it doesn't pass.
Doesn't
Doesn't
pass.
pass.
2-2 doesn't pass. If that
That's
person
all.
doesn't have to take, then it's 2-2, 2-2-1.
Right.
It has to be reported as 2-2-1. I don't think it reported. I mean, we had three. We had
Yeah,
5
but
votes.
it doesn't change the outcome.
No, I understand. Okay, then it's 2-2-1,
what's next?
and that doesn't pass. So it's the same effect. I guess the effect is the same as having a 3-2 vote, right?
Yep.
Well, we'll have to, John or Rick. I guess we'll have to. Whatever we're going to do with respect to the resolution, we'll have to write it in such a way it's 2-2-1. Because that's a big difference.
There's no
between
resolution, Marty.
We're done, Marty. This is over. Next, we go to the
Okay.
next item.
Well, you could make a resolution to the negative, or to the 2-2-1 thing, but that's okay. If there's no one to be made, then that's fine. Then we are 2-2-1, and away we go.
Carol, thank
Carol, I
you.
want to thank you. I
Oh.
want to thank you for coming, and I appreciate your patience. And the virus got us, and we almost lost track of this thing, to tell you the truth. But we at least resurrected it, and we've made a decision for whatever it's worth. So I thank you very much. You can tell your people I will say this, Carol. We didn't have much of a discussion amongst ourselves about this because we don't see each other very often, and so forth and so on. But I will say that from what my read on this is, everybody gave it careful consideration of their own. So it wasn't that this was a fly-by-night decision. I can tell you that, as far as I'm concerned, anyway.
All right.
Well,
I thank everybody for the effort they put
Yep.
into this, and
Okay.
we'll move on
All right.
we'll move
Yep.
on.
and thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Carol.
Thank you, Carol.
You're welcome, Carol.
Thanks.
The next is to acknowledge the receipt of the joint paving marketing bid award. Ricky, do you want to explain a little bit about what's going on here?
Well,
Because I'm wondering
what-
why it's on the agenda.
What we do is, East Goshen, West Goshen, Euclid and Westtown Township, collectively, we go out and solicit bids for line painting, stop bars, arrows, yellow lines, double yellow lines, all that stuff. Because we found that if you have more people, bigger, you tend to get better pricing. And this year, it was West Goshen's turn to do the legwork and put the bid out. And so that's what they did. The total bid for all 4 townships is $140,000 based on the estimated footages. But basically it's a unit price contract. So we now have unit prices for each type of line, each type of stop bar. And with the, whatever we have Alpha do, that's what we will pay for. So you just need to acknowledge it so that if we turn in for liquid fuels money, the board is aware of it. That's the purpose of you acknowledging. So we're okay with the state on the liquid fuels.
Rick, I'm not clear.
Ricky, I got a question.
The total
Let
contract,
David-
$140,381.85. How will we know what our share of that is?
So, David, it's based on how much we use. So historically, we've paid Alpha Space Controls, who's always had the contract, between $35,000 and $42,000 per year. And
Okay.
this bid amount is actually just in line with what the bid has been before. So there shouldn't be any change. It won't go up, won't go down. It just is what it is.
Okay. And this is the entirety of the township?
Right. It's all,
Resurfacing.
it's all the stop bars, all the traffic signals. And if we decide to stripe another street this year and our footage goes up, we just pay based on whatever unit cost is for that street.
What
Or
about
we
the
can-
state and township roads?
Yes, well, we stripe all of our township roads. We stripe the stop bars, gore markings and stuff like that are all traffic control signals, which are most really on state roads.
All right.
So
Okay.
we're not paying to stripe Paley Pike, Northchester Road. We don't stripe the roads per se, just the stop bars in the intersections.
All right. And this isn't related to the Boot Road project, right?
No.
Now, West, that is a whole new project. West.
Okay.
yes.
Thank you. Those are my only questions. Thanks.
The questions I have are, how does the unit price, gentlemen, compare with last year? And is this consistent? Is our expectation will be a consistent number with last year's budget and
Yes.
actual?
It's evidently that there's really should be no net change in what we're paying Alpha Space Controls based on how much
Yeah,
they actually do.
good. Okay, just wanted to ask. Thank you.
Ricky, I got sort of a technical question. I assume we did this every year, and I certainly don't remember it. So I got to ask a question from a naive position here. If I understand what's happening, West Goshen has the ball in their court this year, and it's their vote that's signaling this for everybody. Why isn't it that each of the members aren't voting for it themselves? I've never heard of another township making a decision for another township, which is what they're doing. So why aren't we not taking a vote?
Because
I'm
they
not
were the ones.
suggesting we would be opposed to it. I'm just saying, why isn't each member taking its own vote? It doesn't seem to me that you can have West Goshen make a vote for East Goshen or any other member or any other community for that matter.
Again, the municipalities joined together to undertake this project jointly, just try and save a few dollars. The alternative, I guess, if you wanted to vote to approve it, but West Goshen was the one that this year ended up soliciting the bid. At one of the 4 years, we'll have to do it.
You know, our motion could simply be that we agree with the recommendation of staff, and in the cooperative effort with West Goshen taking the lead this year, we agree to participate in the cooperative bid.
Yeah, I think we should do something along that line personally. I just don't think you can have another township make a motion for you.
Well, we're authorizing spending money, so it's nice to have a motion if we're going to recognize it, just to acknowledge that we're going to agree to participate.
Go ahead, Mike, make a motion, Mike,
Hold on.
or David, one of you guys.
I'll second,
I would,
I'll second Mike's motion.
I would make a motion that East Goshen agree with the cooperative bid prepared by West Goshen, and that we agree to participate in the bid for pavement markings for the total contract price of $140,381.85, and recognizing that there are unit prices within that we will be using relative to our own needs as a municipality.
there a
Can I
second?
ask,
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, go ahead, Michelle.
I just wanted to ask, so this contract is for $140,400, we'll say. Do we know what the past percentage was of the East Goshen use? What did we, and is this done on a yearly basis?
So, Michelle, I think the 140,000 very specific number is based on if we were to do this amount of striping and those sort of things. It's sort of an artificial number. Don't get hung up on that.
Okay,
The key thing is that our restriping costs in a given year are between $35,000 and $42,000.
okay,
Change. The net cost involved in this bid isn't up or down from the last time this went out to bid, whenever that was.
okay.
This does
How
not-
often?
Michelle, this does not obligate us to, really, John or Rick, it doesn't obligate us to doing one linear foot, correct?
Right,
Right.
right. Well, I'm curious, is this something that's sent out every year, or is this something that's done every
Every
5
year.
years?
Yes,
Every year.
the work's done annually.
Okay. Is it something that we actually do annually?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I think,
Okay.
Michelle, I think I'm right in listening to the conversation that everything works on a unit basis. So whatever
Mhm.
number of units you use for striping
Yeah.
or whatever you use for the
I
other
get
ones,
that.
that's what you're gonna have to pay.
I
It
understand.
doesn't matter. The group itself doesn't have an obligation. It could be zero if nobody did anything, but that's not going to happen. But it could happen, right, folks? It could happen. It could be zero, or it could
Right,
be the whole amount. But it's really the unit cost you should be worrying about.
Yes. We are required by the state to maintain the stripings at the traffic signals.
Okay.
However,
Yes.
if the board chooses, we don't have to stripe, the roads, but we do have to do the traffic signals.
Okay.
Will
I'm
that
not
come
sugge-
up at
We
I
do
your
myself
vote
am not
later, Rick?
suggesting we change anything.
We do have a question
I
from,
think
Well,
is there a question from anybody?
let me first mention
yes,
that these funds are being paid for through our liquid fuels funds, state funds.
Right. Right.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
a big important thing.
Yeah, so they're
That's an
liquid,
important thing.
they
Oh,
are,
yeah, I just qualify that. It's not 100% paid for by liquid fuel money, but a good chunk
Hey,
of it.
Rick,
okay.
Rick, is there any written document on how this process works? And if not, there should be, I would think.
Right, Mark has
Amongst
we have the unit prices and the bid that West Goshen put out and on all the other documents.
No, I mean, is that all in a document that says that this is the way it's going to be determined? It'll be determined by passing the buck around to each year, that somebody else will be responsible for making a bid?
I don't think it's
Well,
that formal.
No, Marty, it's not that formal. Essentially, it's just simply one municipality saying, all right, we'll take on the burden of doing the work for the municipalities. We're doing the work for 3 other municipalities, so we'll do it this year, and we'll do the advertisement, and we'll open
Yeah, I
it.
understand that. I understand it. I think your motion's fine as far as I'm concerned. I
We
think
do
we're
have a
better off making
question.
it than not making it.
okay. We do have a question from an email. It's from, are you ready to take public questions?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
it's from Mr. Dan Truitt, and it says, does this really need to be done every year? And can we do it on our own and stretch it out to 18 to 24 months?
Dan's trying to get at what I'm saying, the same thing. It ought to be done every year.
Rick,
So I think as long as we do what we do every year, that we're fine. I'm not worried about the others. I'm just worried about ourselves.
Historically,
have to do is-
we do line striping every year. We have not looked at doing a multi-year contract. But I guess we could ask the group to consider it. And yes, we could forego this and go out and do our own ad, publish the own ad, and then bear that expense and do it on our own if you want.
do we
No,
have the equipment? Do we have the equipment to do it ourselves effectively?
No,
That's a special truck and a special system.
correct.
And skilled operators.
There's also something else to note too, that the paint chemistry has changed in the recent years, and it's now, Rick, correct me if I'm wrong, it's essentially a water-based paint now that is, it's more, I guess the VOCs or whatever are out of it, or whatever they refer to it, and it doesn't last quite as long as it used to. Am I correct on that?
It does not last. Correct. It no longer, yes. You almost have to stripe every year. It does not last as long as it used to.
That's what my recollection was, and this occurred over the last 5, 6, 8 years, or 10 years maybe even.
Yeah, but if you get it on your car, it sticks on there just as long as the old stuff.
Okay, anybody else have any questions? I'll call the question then. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
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 Any nays? 5-0. Thank you very much, everybody. The next item is consider recommendation by John to adopt the ACH payment resolution. John, you might want to explain to everybody what's going on.
Yeah, so ACH stands for Automated Clearinghouse, but basically you know it if you have direct deposit, that's an ACH. So basically, instead of getting a paper check, the money is electronically deposited into an account. More and more, the way of the future is that over time, paper checks are being phased out, and the coronavirus situation is kind of accelerating that trend. We're getting more inquiries from vendors asking if our payables can be made by ACH rather than paper check. My only concern about that is because Rick or I don't have to sign. There's not a signature line for supervisors or to, like there is in a check, that if we were to do ACH, that we have internal controls put in place. And basically what I'm proposing here is that before Barb, who does accounts payable, clicks submit on an ACH, that first Rick or I will sign, Rick and I, not Rick or I, Rick and I, two signatures, will approve those ACH payments, and that on a monthly basis as part of Chris Boylan's month-end reconciliation processes, that she reconciles all of the ACH payments that were approved in the treasurer's reports and signed off on by Rick and me against what's in the general ledger to just make sure there's that second level of internal controls.
That sounds strong enough to me.
That's
I think
great.
That's good. And
Yeah.
I think that sounds good.
I think everybody needs to know that we talked about this in a reasonable length in our meeting the other day, the Finance Committee meeting,
Good.
and it was really around what John is talking about with respect to the assurance that we have adequate payment or adequate signatures. John, just a quick question. I haven't thought of it until now. If there's only one of you and Ricky, and there will be at some point in time in the near future, is this the system that you've cranked up here? Does this still work? If there's only one of you?
Well, I mean, so long as there's, right now there are 3 township signatories. There's me, Rick, and Mark Gordon. So typically Mark Gordon, if I or Rick are out or on vacation or sick, Mark will sign. And we should always have 3 signatories for that reason, forever and ever.
All 3 of you are technically in different departments, right?
Yes.
So that's a control by itself.
That's a good point.
That's great.
Who's the final checker on this?
So Chris Boylan would reconcile the ACH payments against that were approved in treasurer's reports. So there would be a separate batch in your treasurer's reports for ACH payments. So she
Okay.
would reconcile that batch against what's in the general ledger. She would do that once a month.
All right.
So if
I'm good.
she flags something.
I'm okay with this.
Yeah, I really
I
like,
think John's got a good point that in the future, you're going to work yourself around to the point that there's no paper checks. And everything's going to be done by electronically, the way I see it. Even though
I would
I'm going to
also
regret it.
I would also add something. I spoke with Michelle briefly about this, and there is, and then because of that conversation, I talked to our bank rep about this. Our bank, M&T Bank, is moving to a new treasury management system. It sounds like in July, and there will actually, once that goes, there will be a way to, if Barb enters the ACH, Rick and I get an email that says approve, don't approve. So
Good.
theoretically, we could
Fantastic.
phase that thing out pretty quickly once we have that process in place. Chris would still do the reconciliations, but it would be automated than signing a piece of paper.
That's good. That's an extra check and balance.
Yeah, I think it's fine. Okay.
can
Wait.
I,
You got a
can I just
question,
make
Michelle?
can I just make a comment, John? I really appreciate the very thoughtful consideration that you have made over this today. I really am very comfortable knowing that this is the plan moving forward. I think that it's really solid. It protects our taxpayer money. It protects the employees. There's a level of protection for management and the supervisors. So thank you very much for thinking about that.
My pleasure.
Well said, Michelle.
And
Marty,
all that means, Michelle, is that we got protection of the supervisors. Is what it means.
Marty,
That's the thing you
I'd
got to
like-
be. Yes, David.
I'd like to move that we adopt resolution 2020-21, authorizing staff to make ACH payments as an alternative to paper checks.
I'll second
I'll
that.
second that. Yeah, there we go.
Is that a good motion, John?
Yep, that works.
Okay. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody nays? No nays. 5-0. Thank you very much.
Thank
The
you,
next
John.
item is the public comment period. Is there anybody left that?
Next item is
Susan?
any other matter.
Nope, there's
Got a
nobody left.
couple Any other matters, Marty?
I was gonna say I have a matter. Is there a
Is
COVID
it an other
update?
matter?
Yeah.
Well,
I
we're
have-
down to, well, okay, yeah, there is any other matter. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I jumped ahead.
Yeah. Is there a
Go ahead,
COVID
Michelle.
update? Is there a COVID
Yeah,
update for us?
So that's a good question, Michelle. Let me take that. So as of today, obviously East Goshen has on a gross basis the most confirmed cases of any municipality in Chester County. It's a percentage of the population. We're not the top, but just the total number of cases, 110 cases, unfortunately 15 fatalities. The county is obviously the lead entity in managing the COVID crisis at the local level. So we are not privy at this point to information on where those cases are. The emergency responders are notified by dispatch if they're dispatched to a patient with confirmed cases so that they can take the proper precautions, but they just sort of know it anecdotally based on the dispatches they've been getting about where cases are.
John, is what you just said consistent with what you wrote in that fellow, that Mr., is it Mr. Brennan or somebody from
Yes,
Hershey'sville? Is that
yeah,
consistent with what you
Wentworth,
just said?
yes, yes.
That's what I wanted to ask a question about, if I might.
Go ahead.
Acknowledging the email from the citizen. I wonder if it would be of value, if we're able to do it, is to publish something on our website that explains, what role we have and what roles we don't have. I don't want to turn it into a tome and a thesis, but maybe there's a way to explain that we're not necessarily being silent on things, but there are elements to this that are we are just in line to listen to the declarations that come from particularly the governor and Harrisburg, and I'm not sure that folks understand that we can't act in a rogue fashion. We have to keep the protocols that have been declared unto us to do and be responsive to. I don't know whether we could put something on the website that kind of explains that. If other people think we're being silent and not being responsive, that, you know, I don't feel comfortable with that because obviously we are, and there's certainly a ton of information out there that is accessible both through the county and the state. But just a thought to see what you guys think.
I think that's a great idea.
I personally think it's a great idea, and
Yeah.
I would suggest it goes in the newsletter for this summer, and then as a result of that, then put it on the website rather than just putting it on the website. I think the more people that know, the better off we're going to be.
I agree. Let me make a point, if I may. One of the things we should point out is that we don't have any health officials in the township. We rely on the county for emergency medical and that sort of thing. We
Yeah.
don't have a doctor on the board. We don't have anybody officially a medical expert.
That's true.
That's a good point, John. And the other issue is, I think I'm right in this. We're one of the, I don't know if the majority of counties in the state even have a Department of Health, and we do.
Well, it's interesting you say
Yeah,
that
that's
because,
true.
Chester County has agreed to assist Delaware County. Believe it or not, Delaware County does not have a health department.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when you look at the county website now for the health department, you will see complementary mapping and data that the Chester County Health Department has agreed to publish and collate and publish for Delaware County. It's hard to believe that they don't have a health department, but I don't know what all the history is there, but that's one example, David.
And it's also, we should point out that there's a special tab on the website for COVID-19 information. You just click on it and it has all the township information. And I hope there's just not this impression that we're out there trying to make everything better and that we're not paying attention to this. So I think that Mike's suggestion is a great one.
Yeah, I agree.
Good.
Yeah, I do too. I think it's important though to get in a newsletter too while we're at it.
Well,
So, with that-
we'll work up something and expand upon our role and put it on the webpage.
Yeah, and then I put it
Thank
on. When it gets time, I put it in the
Okay,
newsletter too.
okay.
The other, is there anybody else? Is there anybody else with any
I
other
have
comments?
something, I have another item.
Go ahead.
Here today around noon. So historically, East Goshen has piggybacked on the Chester County energy generation contract. And earlier today, we got they went out to bid for electricity generation. The market is obviously down right now. And the winning bid was for Constellation Energy, which is the big player, at basically 4.7 cents per kilowatt hour. It's about 12% less than what we're currently paying at 5.3 cents per kilowatt hour. It's a 3-year term. Back of the envelope, it's tough to go through because we have so many
Sure.
counts. It's tough to give you a specific number, but ballparking it, I think it saves about $2,000 in the general fund and about $8,000 in the sewer fund, because most of our energy use is at the sewer plant.
Great.
And so it's a 3-year term. One of the things to bring to your attention, though, is that it doesn't prevent us from doing a PPA. It doesn't prevent us from putting solar panels in. All of these ideas that are in the Cadmus report are not impacted by this electricity generation contract.
Great.
Still proceed down that path if that's.
Sounds all positive, John. Thanks for that update.
Yeah, that's pretty neat.
Can I just
That's
ask
a low
quick
cost
question?
per kilowatt hour. I'll tell you that, folks.
Yeah, it's a great price. Now,
Yeah.
John, I'm just curious, is that savings over 3 years, or is that savings just for a
No,
single calendar
that
year?
would be annual.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a beautiful thing. That's really nice, John. Thank you very much. Well, in this Cadmus thing, given the situation that we're in, have we decided what we want to do, John? Or are we
Well,
waiting to do that?
Actually, the Sustainability Committee has been speaking for the last 2 Mondays about their thoughts on the matter. I had to drop off the call early, but my understanding is they are in the process of putting together some recommendations for the board's consideration at an upcoming meeting. I guess the COG doesn't meet again until late June, so there's time.
Good, good.
I can report as
One-
liaison. Basically, we took the Cadmus report and the 4 major category sections and each of the strategies within the 4 categories, and we kind of rank ordered them on top of the rank order that was done by Cadmus for us, but looking at kind of the appropriateness of each one of the initiatives by cost and estimated cost. We didn't do cost benefit analysis yet. Cost, impact, and ease of getting it done. And we're looking at a 1 to 7 year horizon for implementation. And so you'll get kind of a reaction from the Sustainability Advisory Committee sometime in the future.
Good. That's a good update.
That's pretty good. Are they, David, are all things of equal weight, or is there different weights?
There's different weights, and they did the 18, there were, I think, 42 or 43 recommendations, and then Cadmus picked out the 18 that were the most impactful, divided them into 4 categories. So we just took the 18 that were divided into 4 categories and had robust discussions around each one of them, and then put up a spreadsheet, and everyone kind of voted on, their picks per category, and that was just a data point, and we didn't make a decision based on that, but it was a data point for the group to create dialogue, and then from those 18 we'll come out with 6 or 7 saying here are the ones we think that are doable in East Goshen, and over the time period that we talked about. And then, again, it's just recommendations and input into the board for their consideration.
Very good.
Great.
I think that's very good, and that's a lot of work on the part of Sustainability Committee, and I think they ought to be thanked for that. And on behalf of the board, I would do that.
I'll pass that along.
Let's not.
The other thing too, I don't know if anybody else besides me is glued to the TV, but I will tell you that what they're projecting for the next few months with respect to the various concerns that are going on with the ups and the downs and the spikes and this and that, I will tell you it's rather frightening at what they're expecting over the next 2 or 3, 4 months. And John, I would think if in fact they're right, and I don't know that they are, but if they are right, it would seem to me that what we thought might be, or I thought anyway, it might not be too bad. We might have an effect, but it might not be too bad. Might be a lot more than what I thought it was going to be. So I would suggest that anybody, all of us, to the extent we have time to do it, be mindful of what some of these people are saying and what the result of that's going to be, because it could have a disastrous we could be in a very serious position in what it boils down to. So I got a little concerned, but that's what happens when you're at home and you don't go anywhere, and you got the television on all day.
True enough.
Marty,
So,
remember
the
that
point of the matter is
fear-mongering
that
sells newspapers.
they're talking about doubling everything up in the next over the next several months from what it's been. I mean, that's dramatic. And you're talking about in the hundreds of thousands of people dying. I mean, it's really bad. And being that I'm one of the ones that are in that that category, I'm saying to myself, what the hell am I supposed to do? And my wife's worse off than I am because of the health part of this thing. So it's really a scary kind of a thing particularly if you're one involved in this thing. So I caution us that we may have greater troubles than we thought we were going to have if in fact it turns out to be the way they're projecting it, which doesn't mean it will. It's just because what I found out, and I think it's important to keep this in mind, these models that they're using, they're kind of like experimental things, and they put things in and take things out based on how things are going, not on how they're going, but what they know that people are doing. So you can't. Sometimes it's the worst case analysis. Sometimes it's better than anything else. So you got to be careful what you're looking at. But the simple fact of the matter is, oh, and by the way, I don't know if anybody saw it. It looks like Mr. Trump is going to dissolve the committee that's running around with Shushi and a lady. Yeah. And that's going to go by the board. So I don't know what's going to happen. it's said that they're going to be staying around, but I don't know how that's going to work. So if anybody hears something, you'll probably read about it in the paper tomorrow. So that's all I got. The next thing is there's nobody in the public left, is there?
No.
Nope, nope, and no email
Yeah,
either.
and no
Ran 'em
emails
all.
either. For what it's worth, I guess this is the third meeting we had. The first time we had 7, last time we had 1, and this time we had 1, and this time we had 1 because the person had to be here. So I'm not sure what that means.
Just 8 o'clock, so
I've got a
There are
model
some pieces of
Yep.
there are pieces of correspondence. I'm sure we all read it. For the benefit of the audience, it's on the website, so it should be done that way. With that said, I don't think there's any liaison. There is no liaison reports. Susan, I intend to go tomorrow evening to the planning commission thing, and I realized that you had sent out an email for everybody's benefit. Will
Yes,
I have the privilege of doing the same thing I do here where?
yes,
I can
the
leave
phone
mic
number's
open?
in that email. Yes, yep.
Okay. I don't know who else planned to go tomorrow night, but you can either do it the way I do it, or you can do it on the way you guys have been doing it. If you want to, listen in on the planning commission with respect to the Cynthia's project. As far as what's on here with the Green Hill Sewer Association, for the 2 new folks there, that's the sewer association up at Hershey's Mill. They do this periodically. They have to update everything, and that's what they're doing. That's what you're reading here. It's the one thing to bear in mind is it doesn't look like it's going to come to that, but one of the things is if Hershey's Mill sewer system goes kaput for some reason or the other, the backup is us. And Ricky can give a good tutorial on this over someday if he wants to for the new folks. And it's not a pleasant thing to think about, but we are in fact the backup for that.
Well,
So
it's about
you just
300.
keep that in mind. But so far so good, and they seem to be very, very conscientiously about working that thing up there.
It's
With
about.
that, I don't have anything else. Does anybody else have anything else?
325,000 gallons per day. So it's a good piece of change if that ever happened, but it's a very
Wow.
well-run organization. I know the operators. I was on the board of the Green Hill Sewer Association back when I was with Woldridge, and they are right on top of everything regarding maintenance and updates. It's a very well-run operation.
I have a question.
Sure.
Rick,
Yes,
I have a question for you. So, with Mike saying it's a 325,000 capacity per day, would that go to the West Goshen facility or the East Goshen facility?
neither. If we have to take the system over, we will just operate the system with the permits they have on their ground.
Okay.
Do they own their own system?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so we would take it over.
The worst case scenario is if something happened to them and they weren't able to satisfy the permit, comply with the requirements, we would go in and basically take it over, run the system, whatever it costs them, they would end up paying, but it would be their system on their ground.
Rick, we're not a co-permittee on this permit at this point, are we?
No, we have an ordinance because they have a community on-lot system. DEP requires us to be the backup.
Okay, yeah.
Can I have a follow-up?
That's what it is.
I have a follow-up. So if that happens, that they ever have to come to us and say the system's down and they come to us, does that mean moving forward in perpetuity, we are their sewage treatment option, or can they ever take it back?
We cannot take their capacity and treat it at either our plant or West Goshen. We don't have the capacity for them.
Okay.
So what would have to happen is if something happened and God forbid we had to take them over, we would have to go in there on their ground and figure out what we could do on their property and do it up there.
Okay.
But your question is, So once we got it straightened out, could they take it back over? I would have to wait and see what happened at that time.
Okay. That's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
Does anybody have anything else? Because I don't.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn the meeting.
That's right. John, are we going to meet again
Second.
every Monday at 10 o'clock?
We can have a call at 10 o'clock on Monday.
I'm just asking a question, so.
So
before
wait a second, David
everybody-
made the motion and Michelle seconded, okay.
Yep.
All
Yep.
right, we're
10
out.
o'clock.
I'm just asking for everybody's benefit if we need to meet next Monday.
That sounds like a great idea.
Okay.
Okay, very good.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Okay, everybody, thank you very